Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. Time for your episode of The Expendable Show. And I'm your host, The Expendable. So, yeah, that's right. I got my Ric Flair shirt on today. Because after everything that's going on, I feel like the world needs more Ric Flair. That's just how I feel, though. When you got the nature boy running around doing stuff. High flying, kiss stealing. Yeah. If you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. Same as always, this episode is brought to you by Gatsby Trading Solutions. Let's get into our stats. Nothing changed in Doge, and we're not making any more money than what we were. Gas prices, we're down to $3.16, so it did drop a couple pennies since Sunday, so that's good. You know, we always like to see gas prices go down. I think there's still room for improvement, I think. Mortgage rates went up. We're at 6.62%. So I don't understand. I'm to the point now where Trump just needs to go ahead and fire Jerome Powell. I don't even know if he's legally eligible to do that, but I think it just needs to happen. President Trump's approval rating is at 46.1%. Let's see what the Dow Jones did. It closed like 2 hours ago. Let's see. What's the Dow Jones looking like? The Dow Jones closed at $46,121.28. So that's good. We're still up above 46. That'd be crazy if we got to 47 by like Christmas. I'd like lose it. I think it's doable. The Democrat Party's approval rating is at 33.5%, still really low. Now, they just re-polled Chicago. And with Trump starting to migrate in there with ICE and everything, Brandon Johnson has a 6% approval rating. That's according to the Chicago Sun-Times and the Illinois Review. Both have him at 6%. That's bad. It is the lowest mayor approval rating in U.S. history. The lowest. Among Democrats in the city of Chicago, he has a 14% approval rating. So he is a far, far, far left progressive Democrat, for those of you who don't know. And he is like borderline all-out socialist, to the point where Zohran Mamdani communicates with him. Like, they like each other. So that tells you, like, this is like a precursor to what New York is about to see. Although Mamdani is way worse. So we'll pay attention to that, because Zohran Mamdani is going to probably win the mayor seat there in New York. But just so everybody understands, while you get J.B. Pritzker on TV, who's the governor of Illinois, and he gets on TV and he's always championing, I don't know if that's the correct English for that, but which is stupid, because I've written 2 books and I can't speak English. I'll mispronounce all kinds of stuff. But it's funny that J.B. Pritzker is always pumping up Brandon Johnson all the time, who has a 6% approval rating. At some point, the Democrats have to cut ties with these people that are a complete failure. 6% is horrid. I don't even need to explain to you guys how bad 6% is, but that's where he's at. And it's atrocious. I don't understand why the Democrat leadership thinks it's a good idea to put Brandon Johnson in front of a TV camera. I would hide him as far away from a TV camera as possible, because you have to remember, we'll talk about it after, but we're going to go into this. So mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani has been chatting with Chicago's deeply unpopular far-left mayor, who Windy City voters recently warned is a poster boy for why New Yorkers should not elect a Democratic socialist. That's how bad this guy is. That's how bad Brandon Johnson is. When the people of Chicago are saying, hey, New York, probably not a good idea. This policy, the same policies you're about to get, completely failed here, and we hate him. But New York, they're going to learn the hard way because that's what they do. They're bullheaded. I got lots of friends from New York. They're bullheaded. I'm sure some of them are probably watching. So the Wall Street Journal has dubbed Brandon Johnson the America's worst mayor. Sarge, welcome back, man. It's been a minute. I wasn't talking about you. You're not the mayor of Chicago. But if you were the mayor of Chicago, they'd be in much better hands with you. I guarantee it. So some of Johnson's policies have been playing out disastrously in Chicago with everything from massive budget woes to broken promises. This guy doesn't do anything right. Sarge, I got my Ric Flair shirt on today. We're Ric Flairing it up today. I may jump off the top rope later. I haven't decided yet. All right, I'm definitely going to go outside and I'm going to do the Ric Flair, his little walk. So I'm probably going to do that and make sure my neighbors are outside watching. So in June, the Chicago Tribune's editorial board printed a stark warning to New Yorkers about electing a socialist mayor like Mamdani. Yeah, well, you need to take it easy, Sarge. You might be through it. They say things happen in threes, so you might be good. A familiar dilemma, a moderate, business-friendly Democrat versus a Democratic socialist. New Yorkers, take it from Chicago. We've seen this movie before, and the ending isn't pretty. That's what they're saying in Chicago. Like they're telling them, like, don't do it. But like I said, New York, there's a lot of you can't tell a New Yorker what to do. Forget about it. Johnson's approval rating cratered in his second year, a reflection of how quickly progressive promises collapsed under the weight of governance and Chicago's financial reality. What sounded good in theory has translated into dysfunction driven by fiscal missteps and political inexperience, which is exactly what New York is about to get with Zohran Mamdani. I can't speak. I quit. Some Chicago voters also said they regret supporting the embattled far-left mayor and warned Big Apple residents to not make the same mistake. But we know that they're going to because you can't tell them nothing. What I would say to New Yorkers is do your homework. You have to know who you're supporting, who you're voting for, so people of New York don't walk around feeling the way I do, said Cata Truss, a Johnson voter and campaigner who turned into a critic. They haven't voted him in yet, Sarge, but they're about to. He's so far ahead in the polls, he's probably going to win by a landslide over Cuomo. So this Cata Truss, which I'm probably not saying that right either. Why can't people have like John Smith? Why can't their names be John Smith or Mike Johnson? But Cata Truss said, I have buyer's remorse in a way that I've never had before. That's a Democrat saying that about their mayor of Chicago. So there you go. Keep voting for socialists and you're going to have socialist results. The good thing is we still live in a democratic republic and we can vote these idiots out. That's what they need to do in Chicago. This Brandon Johnson's so bad that he makes Lori Lightfoot look like a genius. Remember Lori Lightfoot? She was the mayor before Brandon Johnson. He beat her out. Boy, did they do it. Did they do a massive upgrade? That is saying a lot, Rachel. It's crazy. It's crazy how all these people think that this is going to be a good idea. Constitutional Republic, Sarge, my bad. It's It's crazy because in the history of the United States or in the history of the world, socialism has never, ever worked. Never. And it won't work. And I've written about it in both my books, From the Mouth and The Swiss Effect, where our population in the United States is way too big to sustain this magical utopia that these socialist Democrats want. We can't do it. It's impossible. Our budgets will not allow for it to happen. We would have to probably exterminate probably half the population in order to sustain it. They may have tried it with COVID. I'm not real sure. I still think Dr. Fauci is the greatest genocidal maniac in the history of the planet. But they may have tried it. But you know what? The thing is the majority of the people who got 25 jabs and boosters were all Democrats. So, and it's the same thing, and this is horrible to say, but it's the same thing that I say about, they all, the pro-abortion people. Well, you're just going to have less Democrats and there will be more Republicans because the Republicans continue to populate. I'm a Republican. I've got 5 kids. I know how to keep the Republican numbers up, but the Democrats want to have abortions. So where's their population going to come from in the future? They're going to slowly dwindle their population out. And I don't think a lot of these Democrats really thought about that. They're going to have and let's give it 20 years. The Democrats will have so little numbers. It's just going to, they're going to be irrelevant. I know. So everybody who's a Republican, just continue to make babies and we'll just outpopulate them. In 20 years, 75% of the country will be Republicans. There you go. There's the game plan. Outpopulate them. So it's horrible to say that, but that's what's going to happen. It's reality. This isn't just a made up theory. It's going to happen. If they continue to go pro-abortion, you're going to have a dwindled Democrat population, period. So I'm not stopping them. If that's what if y'all want to believe in that, go ahead and believe in it. I'm not Jesus. It's a horrible thing to say, but what would Joe Rogan do? Theo Vaughn would agree with me, probably. I guarantee you Theo Vaughn would agree with me, especially wearing a Ric Flair shirt. So today's big news, we've had another disaster painted at the far left. I'm going to talk about this in depth because there's a lot to unravel here. And I've been watching a lot of pundits go back and forth on this. So I'm going to kind of decipher that and talk about what I think, whatever that's worth. So on this morning, September 24th, a shooter opened fire at the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office located at 8101 North Stemmons Freeway in Dallas, Texas. 3 people were shot and are currently in critical condition. Now, there may be more updates. I did this outline at like 3 p.m. after I got done mowing my dry grass. The suspected shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So there was a heavy law enforcement presence at the scene, dozens of emergency responding around 7 a.m. The FBI was involved in the investigation. Homeland Security officials have confirmed the incident is being treated as a serious attack on federal law enforcement. I knew that was coming, which rightfully so. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons. See, there's an easy name. Todd Lyons. I can say Todd Lyons all day. Todd Lyons, he stated that the victims could include employees, civilians, or detainees, but specifics are still being confirmed. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, Kristi Noem is like the female version of my high school principal. Like she's got these really bright blue eyes, and when she stares at you and like they bug out of her head and like she like is shooting at you with daggers coming out of her eyes. Sarge, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you go put a side-by-side of Kevin Miller next to Kristi Noem, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, they have to be brothers and sisters. Kristi Noem don't play around. Kevin Miller didn't either. We used to drive that man crazy. There was a reason why he looked at us like that. we drove that man crazy. Sarge will tell you. He was in on the shenanigans. Sources familiar with the investigation identified the gunman to Fox News as 29-year-old Joshua John, Jahn. The H is silent, most likely. Or it could be John. I don't know. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's probably John. Authorities said 3 detainees were shot. At least one of them was fatally shot. The gunman also died by self-inflicted gunshot wound, which I already said. FBI is there. Homeland Security is there. It was a targeted attack. Now, what I'm hearing, initial reports, is that the gunman was not a very good shot at all. That he was trying to hit ICE agents, but missed a lot and actually was hitting the detainees. So mission failed overall. Congratulations. You shot some of the people that you were trying to not shoot, which is what happens when you have morons who don't know how to operate a firearm trying to shoot at a decent distance and have zero experience. Sarge says there's no proof that he was involved in shenanigans and that we just blamed him all the time. I'm going to take my responsibility in some of that. I purposefully wanted to make our principal lose his mind on a daily basis. I remember we got accused of steroids one time, and he was going to he took the whole football team, had us all us seniors in his office, was going to give us all urine tests. And then I saw like so many parents come into that office like they're not peeing in nothing. I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's get out of here. Yeah, he was an English. I actually liked him as an English teacher, Sarge. I don't know what happened to him. He became principal and he turned crazy. Of course, we didn't help him out any at all. So President Donald Trump denounced the Dallas ICE field office shooting in a True Social post today. He said radical left Democrats, he's blaming them for fueling anti-law enforcement violence and pledging to sign an executive order against what he called left-wing domestic terrorist networks. So President Trump denounced it. He said, I have been briefed on the deadly shooting at the ICE field office in Dallas. It has now been revealed the deranged shooter wrote anti-ICE on his shell casings. And he said, this is despicable. The brave men and women of ICE are just trying to do their jobs and remove the worst of the worst criminals of our country. But they are facing an unprecedented increase in threats, violence, and attacks by deranged radical leftists. Then he went on to say this violence is a result of radical left Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling for ICE to be abolished or demolished, and comparing ICE officers to Nazis. The continuing violence from radical left terrorists in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination must be stopped. ICE officers and the brave members of law enforcement are under grave threat. Trump noted that his administration has already declared Antifa a terrorist organization. Hallelujah. They need to declare it as a terrorist organization. That's a bunch of scared kids trying to accomplish terrorism in our country, and they all need arrested. And he made an executive order on that this week. He says, Trump went on to say, I'm calling on all Democrats to stop this rhetoric against ICE and America's law enforcement right now. The Trump administration is fully committed to backing law enforcement, strong borders, securing our homeland, deporting violent, illegal criminals, and fully rooting out the left-wing domestic terrorism that is terrorizing our country. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So I'm going to talk about that and break this down. So I was watching The Five on Fox today, because I always watch The Five because I'm a fan of Greg Gutfeld. He's about the only person on Fox that I like. And, well, besides Tyrus. I like Tyrus. But he was going back and forth with the super socialist supporter, Jessica Tarloff, I wish Fox would just fire her because she's an idiot. But she was trying to justify why it shouldn't be looked at as that big of a deal, because in the past, the right has done stuff. Okay, Jessica, you're right. The right is not completely innocent. The right has their problems too. However, when you look at the last 10 problems that have happened in this country that are major headline shootings, they've come on the backs of the left, specifically with information that leads to things that these politicians are saying on social media and TV. That's where this is the problem. If they want to sit here and say that Donald Trump incited January 6th by saying, be peaceful, let your voices be heard, we are the party of law and order, then what these politicians are saying by saying that ICE is the Gestapo, that ICE are Nazis, that they're acting on Donald Trump's military unit, blah, 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 blah. What do you think your radicals are going to do? And Jessica Tarloff was like, well, we can't blame this on the left because some crazy person did it. No, that's the plan. They put these seeds out there hoping that there's one lunatic out there that will process that in and go, yes, I am going to save my party and kill Charlie Kirk. I'm going to shoot the ICE office. I'm going to do this and do that. I'm going to shoot the school up. And that's what they do. And then the Democrats all go, oh, that was, we denounce violence for political violence. We denounce it. Okay, then shut the hell up and stop saying all this crazy stuff on TV. I get it. You don't like Donald Trump. You can flat out say, I don't like Donald Trump, without saying, he's a fascist, he's a Nazi, he's this and that and this. And you're right, Sarge. Sarge said they need to actually hold accountable the government people backing these organizations. And he's right. And that would send a message. And that message will get sent to the left and the right, because the right's just as guilty as the left. It's just the left's under the microscope right now. So it's a 50-50 game. We need to stop the radicalization of both sides, really. But the left is just who's under the microscope right now. That's where the focus needs to be. And after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, we need to think about this. And that's what I'm getting ready to go into, Rachel. Rachel said the sheep will always follow, and they all know it. So here's what happens. And Penny said the violence and instigating violence or lawlessness almost always comes from the left. I'm going to agree with you on that. I'm going to agree with you on it, because they make a point to radicalize their base, and they radicalize their youth. The conservatives don't have a master plan to radicalize their youth. We just want them to go find God. And that's what I was about to talk about is when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, we were at a point where the tension was so high. The conservatives were mad. We were ready to go. The conservatives I know were all ready to go stomp out the left. Now, we could have went that route, but we had a leader emerge, which was Erica Kirk, and stood up there and said, this isn't what Charlie would have wanted. Boom, it killed the tension on the right then. We were still mad, but we were willing to put that anger aside and the potential for violence aside, because we had a solid leader come and say, that's not the way Charlie would want it. And so we got a lot of people on the conservative side got behind Erica Kirk and said, this woman is leading us down a good path. She's leading us down a path to honor Charlie and get right with ourselves and our relationship with God. That's what matters. And that's how leadership works. That's how peaceful leadership works. The left doesn't have that. They don't have that leadership that can diffuse tension like that. We found us a real leader on the right. And hopefully she stays that way. And I believe she will. Now that's significant. It's significant because it is the defining description between the right and the left right now. Nobody is leading and taking control over the left. It's just a bunch of gaslighting radicals. And on the right, we found our peace. We found our peaceful place. And she guided the angry conservatives, especially the college-age kids and the mid-30s people that were diehard Charlie Kirk. She found a way to bring them to construction and bring them to something positive. Let's take this anger and this energy and send it somewhere positive. We're seeing record numbers of turning point chapters emerging. We're seeing record numbers of the youth going to church. We're seeing record numbers of peaceful prayer protests. I don't even want to call them protests. They're vigils. Prayer vigils are happening all over the place. That's how leadership works. Instead of taking this anger and pushing it towards something bad, you migrate it to something positive. You migrate it to God. And that's where we need to be. Where's the left? Where's that leadership? It's not there. You have people like Cory Booker constantly running his mouth. You got Chuck Schumer's going to be anti-everything. You got Nancy Pelosi, who's just, I'm not talking anymore. I'm not leading nobody anymore. And then you have AOC, who's constantly Fidel Castroing it all over the place. And these, you don't have a positive leader over there. John Fetterman is the only one on the left that makes sense right now. And they ignore him because he's not part of the socialist movement. So they're like, yeah, that's John Fetterman over there. He's a Democrat, but we don't really kick it with him. And John Fetterman's over there going, you guys are insane. And I'll support a guy like John Fetterman. He's the last moderate we have. Everybody's like Joe Manchin. But what is Joe Manchin doing? Nothing. He's not speaking out on nothing. He just stays down the middle and doesn't do anything until the coal stuff comes up. And then he's like, yeah, well, I better do something for the coal industry so I can get my kickbacks. And that's the only time you hear from Joe Manchin, when his money's involved. The true head is hidden, and eventually I'm hoping Donald Trump will go at it. They need to cut that off. All that funding to these terror groups need to go. They keep saying follow the money. Oh, man, they know who it is. Go get them. What are we waiting on? Same thing. Pam Bondi's just taking her time on everything. Oh, well, we're going to do Donald Trump's plan and get rid of corruption. You're getting low-level people. That's not going to get it done, Pam. We don't want to see you arrest people that we don't ever know who the hell they are. We want Schiff. We want everybody who's involved in that J6 commission, Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, everybody a part of the Steele dossier need to go. Comey, all them. Everybody who's lied and got caught lying, and we can document all the lying. That stuff's got to be done. Gone. And they won't do it because then they'll have to give Barack Obama immunity, which is fine. He's got immunity. He's a president. But at the same time, nobody wants to say, yeah, Barack Obama is part of the conspiracy, but he's got immunity. But the rest of these guys are going down. You know, that's the discrepancy they have. They don't want to pass Obama, but give everybody else the boot. So this week, so I went in and I looked. I was like, I wonder what's on the agenda this week in Congress. So in the House, so we are talking about Joe Manchin. Everything in the House is coal mining oriented this week. So you have the Coal Act of 2025, which they're talking about in the House. It's for combating obstruction against leasing act. So I think what they're trying to do is take the restrictions off the leasing so they can mine coal again. So this should help states like Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, and North Carolina, all these mining states for coal. It should help them out and create some of the coal jobs back. And then you have HR 1366 getting talked about, which is Mining Regulatory Clarity Act of 2025. Same thing, just kind of getting the restrictor plates taken off the coal industry so they can do stuff. And then you have HR 3872, which is America Act of 2025. It's the mineral extraction for renewable industry and critical application. So that could be like a forward-moving technology kind of situation for the industry. So I'm okay with that. Then you have HR 4018, which is focused on offshore critical minerals and resources. And then HR 4068 is streamlining NEPA for coal projects, introduced by Mike Collins. Or Susan Collins. It just says Collins. I'm guessing it's Mike Collins because Susan Collins is worthless. So on the Senate agenda, which Mike Collins is my Senate, he's my HR, he's my rep. So, but he's running against John Ossoff for Senate. So I'm about to lose him. Which he'd be my senator, so it's all the same. In the Senate this week, the National Defense Authorization Act, they're debating over that. The cloture vote is scheduled for Monday on the nomination of Mike Waltz as U.S. representative to the United Nations. That should be an easy one because Mike Waltz, we already know. I know he's taken some criticism just recently over the, the whole leak stuff. When we had all that get leaked when he was in the cabinet, but I think he'll be fine as the UN rep. So there's also votes possible in motions related to Senate Bill 2806, which is for they're sending that to appropriations. It is, Rachel. There's a lot of puzzle pieces. The coal industry is about to make a comeback, which rightfully so. We need. So our energy grid's screwed up. And I don't think our government has told us everything about how screwed up it is. We need coal in reserve, a lot of it. So hopefully that's what they're doing. They're trying to free up the coal industry so that we can mine as much of it as possible. That's my theory anyway. We'll see. So there's also so a lot of people don't know this, but the Senate has been holding up a lot of Trump's nominees for certain jobs, like the EPA assistant administrator. They're supposed to be talking about that this week. The undersecretary for science, the undersecretary for nuclear security, the assistant secretary for fossil energy, several positions in the Department of Defense. Our grid sucks. Power grid really sucks. The Interior Department, National Security Administration. So we've got all these major positions that need filled, that need to get passed through the Senate. But all the senators are playing games trying to slow down all these. I think a lot of people in the country thought that this was already done, that all Trump's people were put in place. No, there's still over 100 people that need confirmed from what I understand. That's a stupid problem to have. And it's just the Democrats playing games in the Senate. So Trump also spoke at the UN General Assembly, which in my opinion, the UN General Assembly is a giant waste of time. I don't know why we continue to do this. I don't know why it's done on American soil. I don't want no part of the United Nations. I think they're a cancer to the world. But we're part of it. We do it. So it is what it is. So Trump goes in there and he bullies Europe. And I like that. I want that to happen. So Trump questioned the United Nations effectiveness, saying it writes strongly worded letters and never follows up. And then he asked, what is the purpose of the United Nations? I thought that was brilliant that he said that he threw that out there so the world can see it. Because I want Trump to take control, and Biden had no control over international geopolitical issues. He had no control. Trump has control. He lets everybody know I'm the boss. Y'all do what I say. He did. Sarge said that Trump dog walked him, and he did. If you watch the UN speech, he definitely dog walked the whole world in the General Assembly. He announced renewed U.S. Funding cuts to UN programs, including the Human Rights Council and UNRWA, the one that got caught doing all that bad stuff, funding terrorists and all that. So Trump doubled down. He said, "We're not funding We're not funding groups that fund terrorism." So, so Trump claimed he had ended 7 wars, which he has, and he criticized the United Nations for not helping in any of them, and that's true. If Trump one man can go in there and make peace deals, what has the UN been doing this whole time? Nothing. The United Nations does nothing but have meetings, and they all sit around and they look around and they have their little speeches, and then everybody goes home. Nothing gets done. It's a waste of American taxpayer dollars. We need to just get out of that. It's worthless. And everybody's going to go, oh, why would we get out of that? We need to be in cahoots with the world. No, we don't. No, you don't. No, we don't. We don't need them. They need us. And we need to let the world know that. We need to get away from all global affiliations with stuff and say, hey, we're going to do us, but if you need us, make an appointment with the Oval Office and we'll see if we got time to talk about it. That's how it should go. Because we get drugged. The United Nations drags us into all this money spent wars of our taxpayer money that we get no benefit out of. You know who benefits from it? Defense contractors. That's who benefits from all this stuff. The American people don't, because wars cause recession, and we end up taking the hit every single time. And then our sons and daughters come back, and then our VAs don't take care of them, and then a high percentage of them end up being homeless. Some of them are injured and can't work because the VA doesn't take care of nobody. And we end up, the war turns into a disaster for the American people. Rachel said, my professional goal, less meetings, more productivity. The government should be the same. I 100% agree. I do the same thing. Let's stop talking about it and let's start being about it. Talking we've watched look, I like James Comer. I love James Comer. But James Comer gets on TV once a week and says, well, we found this out and we're going to have a commission meeting about this. What? You've had 100 meetings, but what's been done? Nothing. And I like Jim Jordan too, but he does the same thing. Oh, we found this and we found this. What's been done, Jim? Nothing. You guys keep meeting, but nothing gets done. Maybe I'm being overcritical, but I like things to get done. If my taxpayer money's paying your salary, then I expect you to give me results. I don't want you to go spend your 3 days in session for the week and get on Fox News and Newsmax and go, we found this and we're going to look into this, and come out with no results. And then you go on vacation for a month. We're going to go into recess for a month. Like, come on, man, y'all don't work enough and you're not getting anything done. Maybe less time on vacation, more time in session. How about that? Start there. Anyway, Trump's position as a peacemaker is deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize. He should win like 7 of them. Though many of the conflicts that he cited remain unresolved, which that's a crock of crap. That's AI trying to manipulate you, because that's what they do. Trump condemned the recent moves by U.S. allies, including France, Canada, and Australia, to recognize a Palestinian state, calling it a reward for Hamas and a threat to peace. I agree with that. Hamas is trash, and they need to be arrested or exterminated from the planet. Not very godlike of me to say, but they do their fair share of terrorizing and killing and murdering innocent people. So, I tend to be a little more Old Testament when it comes to those kinds of things. Ukraine and Russia. So he urged NATO countries to shoot down Russian planes, violating their airspace, and demanded Europe to stop buying Russian energy, calling continued imports embarrassing. And that's true. Europe is funding Russia. They have been for 50 years or so. And Russia's always going to have money because Europe gives it to them. They go, Russia's mean, they're the bad guy. But we'll keep buying everything from them. It's okay. It's a catch-22. And that's why I don't like Europe. Europe does what is best for Europe. They don't do what's best for people. Sarge, I'm not going to repeat that because I'll get canceled. I know it's my show, but I'm not going to say it. Trump warned that Western nations are going to hell. And they are, due to uncontrolled migration, calling it an invasion and blaming the United Nations for enabling it, because they've got their open border policy over there in Europe. And all these countries, they just allow all this open migration all over the place because of open border programs by people like the Open Society Foundation, which is ran and owned and headed by George and Alex Soros. Until we get rid of that problem, we will continue to have money being funded to those types of invasion situations. So the Democrats say that the speech was combative and campaign-like, with Trump mocking the UN's broken escalator and teleprompter issues, which the UN's trash. I don't care. He mixed grievances with boasts, including domestic poll numbers and military actions, and made a few mentions of global cooperation. A lot of people were not. The EU's the EU's worse. I agree, Sarge. The European Union is worse than the United Nations. I still don't like the United Nations because nothing ever happens. Nothing gets done. But the European Union is way worse, because they manipulate everything. They're the ones who gaslight every war. It's always the EU that does it. And then they send their big giant military NATO in there to do stuff. And then we get bundled up into that. So finally, we're going to end on my Kentucky investigation. So I've been in heavy with Paris, Kentucky, which is basically like a little town just to the east of Lexington. It's a little rural area, not very highly populated, but very highly populated in corruption. And I have made them all mad all week. And so they have a mayor. The mayor's name is John Plummer. So John Plummer, so there was an independent investigation for illegal acts by the top brass of the police department there. They were doing illegal things. They got caught. The independent investigation says that, yes, there were illegal actions that happened for several people in the police department, including the police chief. So in this, Mayor Plummer, when he saw the report, said, the public can't know about this. Let's figure out a way to make this go away. So that's what they tried to do. But people who knew about it got a hold of me and said, hey, they're about to wipe this under the rug. You better make a big stink about this before they do. So I did. And now I've brought it to the light. And so when I started doing this, I had somebody give me a personal message. Somebody sent me a personal message, and it was the grandson of the mayor. And he tried to propagate me heavy and was like, my grandfather's not involved in none of that corrupt stuff that's going on. He's a good guy. And then come to find out, after I dug into it, the mayor's got his hands right in the middle of the honey jar. So nice try, wrong guy. So the city council is Wallace Brooks, Stan Galbraith, Sharon Fields, and Tim Gray. Tim Gray already came after me once, and I hammered him and brought up stuff that he didn't think I knew. And I haven't heard a peep out of him since. So at least he's smart enough to shut up. So I found out that he was involved in 2 separate infidelity issues that violates ethics. And so the city council, the whole city council knows about this independent investigation. And they are all complicit in covering up the results of the independent investigation from the public. So the city manager is Jamie Miller. She's about to bounce and go to Virginia or West Virginia. She's getting ready to quit. But she was the manager who said, okay, let's brush this under the rug. So she's just as guilty. The city attorney, Brian Bowman. What's up, G-Bro? So the city attorney is Brian Bowman. So I've already received a letter from him. And when I did my open records request on that specific document, and he denied me because I'm not a resident of the state of Kentucky. That was his excuse. So I made a video and I taught everybody how to file an open records request in Kentucky. So everybody bombarded the city of Paris with open records requests for this specific document. So good luck with that. I'm not sure if he was in on covering it up, but he does know about it. Now, the police chief, Myron Thomas, he's the biggest tyrant of them all. So he became chief because he got passed up for it once. And so he sued the city for discrimination. He's an African-American. So that's how he became chief. He won the lawsuit, and they basically gave him the chief job. So with his settlement money, he went and bought a bunch of businesses, which isn't that big of a deal. But the problem is he doesn't work all day at the city. He collects a full-time paycheck, but he works at his other businesses most of the time. And that's part of the criminal activity. He's stealing from the city taxpayers. So he's basically collecting 2 paychecks off the same 8 hours, which is fraud and theft. He also had an affair. His girlfriend found out about the affair, and his girlfriend went and beat the brakes off of the mistress. Really bad. Now, did the chief's girlfriend get arrested? Nope, she didn't. Also, the chief's son is being investigated, I believe, by the feds for fraud, for I think it's disability fraud or Medicaid fraud or something. It's workman's comp fraud. So they have a captain of the patrol who's Adam Harmon. The assistant chief is William Hurst. The captain of the special units is a guy named Scott Toadvine. What a name, Toadvine. So during this investigation, Scott Toadvine came out and said, yes, I do lie and I fudge the numbers so that way we can keep our accreditation as a police department. He admitted it. That's part of the investigation they don't want out there, but I know that because I know things. Now, Detective Louis Boyer, he's been my target most of the week because Detective Louis Boyer, they call him the fixer, that he fixes everything so that way the corruption doesn't come out. So he covers up all the city dirt. Now, he's a big dude. He's jacked and he's on all kinds of steroids. And so I've been hammering him all week. They tell me that he's been like flipping out on the police officers in the squad room at roll call, saying, if anybody talks to that TikTok guy, I'm going to sue you and him. And so I heard that. And so I made a video. And I said, look, man, you either need to dial down the DECA or increase your estrogen blocker because you're off balance, brother. And I said, go ahead and sue me. We'll throw all this stuff out on the table and we'll find out who's lying. And he ain't going to do that. He is trying to scare his officers. And I'm not going to let that. That's a retaliatory tactic against whistleblowers. So I'm not having that. So if he thinks he's going to go bully his people and bully his community. Now there's whole other case where they beat a man half to death in the jail, Detective Boyer and several other officers, because that certain individual stuck up for a woman that was being sexually harassed by the police chief's son's buddy. And this guy stuck up for her that lives in Lexington. So they sent a dude over to pick him up, basically kidnapped the dude, brought him back into jurisdiction so they could arrest him. Then they charged him with assault, and then they beat the shit out of him in the jail and almost killed him. That's the type of stuff that happens in this town. And that's currently being litigated right now. So there's a long line of corruption here. And these guys don't like me at all. I promise you that. They lose. I live rent free in their head. And I'm going to make another video about them tomorrow. And so I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from the people of Paris. They're saying, thank you. Finally, somebody came in here and did this. These guys are out of control. And they are. They're so used to being corrupt that they don't even really try to hide it anymore. They just do it out in the open because they didn't anticipate an outsider coming in and doing this. And so now I'm getting help from the community, which is is the whole entire goal of this, is to expose the corruption, empower the people to take their communities back from tyrants. So we're accomplishing that mission, and it's making me happy. I'm happy to see the people standing on their own 2 feet and fighting back. So at the end of the day, it's going to make the town better. We're going to get rid of some of these idiots. I gave the city council an agenda this morning and said, look, you guys have the opportunity. You can't hide this anymore. You got to bring it out, address it, discipline the people who need disciplined. And, or you're going to end up being complicit in this as well, because I know who everybody touched. I know everybody that touched this document and said, cover it up. So we'll see. And the FBI watches, and Homeland Security both, they watch all my content. So, I'm sure there's a lot of eyes on all these areas that I look at. But we'll see what the week brings. I'm probably going to make more people mad, but that's what I do. Don't be corrupt, and I won't ever have anything to talk about. But that's it for the show today. Everybody be safe. And watch out for these crazy loonies out there, man. I can't stress it enough. Be careful. I'm out. Peace.